The first question this week comes from Withrow, and they basically ask, how much of a decrease in total daily energy expenditure can you expect with even a small amount of weight loss, like 5 to 10 pounds? How much of an effect does that have on your daily energy expenditure? And unfortunately, there's no one good answer with this. Like, I have had clients to where we've lost like 15 pounds and really their maintenance intake didn't really change a whole lot. Maybe 100 calories, but other than that, they lost at a nice consistent rate the entire time, and it really didn't change a whole bunch. Whereas other people, you drop that initial 500 calories at the start, and you keep having to drop calories like almost every couple of weeks. And you have these individuals that they tend to adapt pretty fast to the calorie deficit. And it usually works the other way too, to where they adapt to the calorie surplus. So someone eating 4,000 calories in the off season, sometimes those individuals might have to get down to 2,500 or 2,000 calories to continue to lose weight while going through a fat loss phase. But someone that only gets up to 3,000 calories in an off season might only have to decrease to 2,000 or 2,200, depending on how much they have to lose and all that sort of thing. But let me give you a rule of thumb that tends to work. And I'm going to try something here that I don't know is going to work very well. But let me provide a nice little example here with this nice little drawing app here. And I'm going to do my best to draw with my mouse here. It's kind of challenging, but I'm going to do my best. All right. So let's say an individual. So this is going to be a nice rule of thumb to figure out your maintenance calories regardless of the amount of weight you've lost. So let's say we have a 200-pound individual. Hey, that's not bad handwriting. I think that's just as good as what it is normally. And they maintain on 3,000 calories. All right. So 3K. And let's say they lose. So first off, before I go into how much they lose, let's figure out how many calories they maintain on per pound. So we're going to take 3,000 divided by 200. All right. So we've got 200 here, and we're going to divide that by 3,000. And I'm not going to do long division here. I'm going to go the way of the calculator. And I'm going to divide. Sometimes I mix this up, so I think I do that first and that. Yeah. So they maintain on about 15 calories per pound. All right. I should have known that from just looking at the numbers there. I'm sorry. I'm kind of an idiot, but 15 is how many calories they maintain on per pound. All right. So maintenance calories, if you have your maintenance calories at a certain body weight, and then they go through a fat loss phase. So they go through and they lose 15 pounds. I can do this math, I think. 185. All right. So now the question is, okay, what's the maintenance calories now? Not too hard. If they maintained on 15 calories per pound, then all you do is multiply this by 15, and that gives you a new maintenance calories. I wish I could do it in my head. I really do. But let me pull this calculator back up here. 185 times 15, 2775. So 2775. Hey, not bad handwriting. So let me play with a different color, highlight, star, all that good stuff. So their new maintenance calories here, based off of losing 15 pounds, might be around that 2775. I think this is a number that I like to use for, like, if someone does a diet break after losing 6 or 7 pounds, I will calculate their new maintenance here, and this gives you a nice rough estimate. All right. How do I clear this thing now? I have no idea. I'm going to just eraser. What the heck? That doesn't look right. I don't know what I'm doing. Let me do this and this. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just going to ignore this and go to this. Okay, now it's just all broken. I'm sorry. Let me go back to myself here. I'm better looking than this anyways. How do I get back? I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Hey, I'm back. How you doing? All right, so that was a nice attempt at making my videos more interesting. But next question here. Is the refractory period a thing? So this is the idea that, hey, once you have protein, it doesn't make sense to have protein again for another few hours because you're already kind of maxed out. Like, it's the muscle full effect. Your muscle is full. You don't need more protein and that sort of thing. Hey, I think those traps are still maintaining pretty well. I go back to the gym 2 days ago, since you're watching this on Sunday, and today is Thursday, and I'm very excited about it. But Jorn Tremelin is a very good protein researcher, and I think that he would know a shit ton about this more than myself, and he has an article, Nutrient Tactics, I think is his website, and it's really good. Search muscle protein synthesis, Jorn Tremelin. I did a podcast with him actually and talked about the refractory period, and he basically thinks that, hey, there's not strong evidence for it, especially in trained individuals, and he thinks that, if you're lifting and your body has a need to use that protein, that it's going to use that protein. So even if you have protein within a couple of hours, it's not like you all of a sudden can't use that protein anymore if you're a little bit more sensitive to it because you're lifting and stuff like that. So he thinks that, hey, you probably don't have to worry about it much. And, if you're distributing your total daily protein intake across 3 to 5 meals, and if some of those meals are a little closer together, it's probably not a huge deal. And that's kind of what makes sense to me as well. So that's what I think on that one. Next question here. Higher intensities and lower volumes while dieting? Question mark. So while you're dieting, should you use heavier weights and lower rep ranges? And what was the second part of it? Lower volumes and lower volumes. So theoretically, while dieting, your MEV is a little bit higher because while dieting, you're a little bit more catabolic, you're more prone to tissue breakdown, and your MRV, your maximum recoverable volume, is a little bit lower because you have less resources for recovery because you're also a little bit more kind of catabolic. So based on this, the window between your MEV and MRV is a little bit lower. So rather than just saying that your volume should be a little bit lower, I think that your volume should be a little bit more moderate on average. Let me show you a little example here. I like using this thing. I'm going to keep using it, all right? So let's say while you're doing a massing phase, and you start week 1 around 10 sets on average per muscle. And I'm going to put a little 1 there because week 1. And then let's say in week 5, you work up to 20 sets. And that's right around your MRV. So during a massing phase, you might work from your MEV around 10 sets all the way to your MRV around 20. But during a cutting phase, if that MEV and MRV is a little bit more squeezed together, I think that it makes a lot more sense to do something like this. That's an interesting looking C there, Ryan. But week 1, you might do something like, 13 sets. So a little bit higher than your initial MEV or your massing MEV. But then in week 5, you might only work up to 15 or 16 sets, somewhere in there. So while massing, I think that you start a little bit lower and end a little bit higher, and then while cutting, you have a little bit more narrow of a window there. So that's what I think for volume while cutting. Now, what about intensity? Well, regarding your intensity, and I am going to come back on the screen here. Wow. Good looking guy once again. For your intensity, I don't think it needs to change. I don't think you need to worry about. I still would say 8 to 15 rep range on average. Some stuff can go heavier, some stuff can go lighter, but the 60 to 70% of your work in that 8 to 15 rep range for the most part. And I don't think it needs to change. And I could even see an argument for not going much below about 8 reps while cutting, because you might not get as good of a stimulus to fatigue ratio, and you might want to maximize your stimulus to fatigue ratio even more while you're going through a cutting phase. All right? And the final question here, how to transition back into the gym. And I'm not going to lie to you, I made up this question because I'm heading back into the gym right now. In America, at least, places are starting to open up, and a lot of people are going to be rearing back to go in the gym because, they've just gone through this phase of not being able to train in the gym, and they've had all this time to where they're just training with body weight stuff. And, a lot of people are probably wondering how to approach your training program when you get back into the gym here. And I think that the best approach is really easing back into it. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging because we're so ready to just jump right back into things. I'm the same way. I kind of want to just get in there, do a crazy full body workout, destroy myself, and live with the consequences. And if you do that, I think that's fine. You just have to understand that that's probably not best from a growth standpoint across a macro cycle. So, what do I recommend you approaching this, or how to approach this? I think a very reasonable approach would be to take one set off of like every exercise in your usual week 1 volumes. So if you usually start around kind of that 10 set mark, or let's say, rather than thinking about weekly volumes, let's say that in week 1, day 1, it's a push day. You usually start with 5 sets of chest, and you do 3 sets of bench and 2 sets of flies, or something like that. I think that it would be very reasonable to start with just 2 sets of bench and 1 set of flies, and really kind of easing back into it, 3 to 4 reps in reserve, because all of these exercises are basically going to be novel exercises for us once again. And if you think about when you just completely try a new exercise, if you totally just jump right back into it, it's probably not the best idea. And this will be dependent on the muscle group. I think so anyways. Like for your biceps, are you going to have to cut off a ton of, like if you usually start with 3 sets of biceps in your first upper body day, doesn't matter a whole lot if you go to 2, probably not. I'll just watch the reps in reserve, and I think that you're probably going to be fine there. But if it's like an RDL and you usually start with like 3 sets of RDL, which I think would be a lot anyways, definitely bring that down to 2. And if you start with 2 and you get some soreness from RDLs from just 2 sets in week 1 normally, bring that down to 1 set. If you haven't done RDLs for a long time, 1 hard set will be plenty. All right? So that's how I'm going to be kind of approaching it with myself, as long as I don't trade like a jackass, and with my clients. So I appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you like this new format this week, and I'll talk to you soon. I won't talk to you. I will see you soon. I also won't see you. I don't know how to end this. Nice awkward ending.